The Wisdom of the Ancients, by Francis Bacon. Chapter 2. Typhon, or a rebel. Explained of rebellion. The fable runs, that Juno, enraged at Jupiter's bringing forth Pallas without her assistance, incessantly solicited all the gods and goddesses, that she might produce without Jupiter, and having by violence and importunity obtained the grant, she struck the earth, and thence immediately sprung up Typhon, a huge and dreadful monster, whom she committed to the nursing of a serpent. As soon as he was grown up, this monster waged war on Jupiter, and taking him prisoner in the battle, carried him away on his shoulders, into a remote and obscure quarter, and there cutting out the sinews of his hands and feet, he bore them off, leaving Jupiter behind miserably maimed and mangled. But Mercury afterwards stole these sinews from Typhon, and restored them to Jupiter. Hence, recovering his strength, Jupiter again pursues the monster, first wounds him with a stroke of his thunder, when serpents arose from the blood of the wound, and now the monster being dismayed, and taking to flight, Jupiter next darted Mount Etna upon him, and crushed him with the weight. Explanation. This fable seems designed to express the various fates of kings, and the turns that rebellions sometimes take, in kingdoms. For princes may be justly esteemed married to their states, as Jupiter to Juno, but it sometimes happens, that, being depraved by long wielding of the scepter, and growing tyrannical, they would engross all to themselves, and slighting the counsel of their senators and nobles, conceive by themselves, that is, govern according to their own arbitrary will and pleasure. This inflames the people, and makes them endeavor to create and set up some head of their own. Such designs are generally set on foot by the secret motion and instigation of the peers and nobles, under whose connivance the common sort are prepared for rising, whence proceeds a swell in the state, which is appositely denoted by the nursing of Typhon. This growing posture of affairs is fed by the natural depravity, and malignant dispositions of the vulgar, which to kings is an envenomed serpent. And now the disaffected, uniting their force, at length break out into open rebellion, which, producing infinite mischiefs, both to prince and people, is represented by the horrid and multiplied deformity of Typhon, with his 100 heads, denoting the divided powers, his flaming mouths, denoting fire and devastation, his girdles of snakes, denoting sieges and destruction, his iron hands, slaughter and cruelty, his eagle's talons, rapine and plunder, his plumed body, perpetual rumors, contradictory accounts, and see. And sometimes these rebellions grow so high, that kings are obliged, as if carried on the backs of the rebels, to quit the throne, and retire to some remote and obscure part of their dominions, with the loss of their sinews, both of money and majesty. But, if now they prudently bear this reverse of fortune, they may, in a short time, by the assistance of Mercury, recover their sinews again, that is, by becoming moderate and affable, reconciling the minds and affections of the people to them, by gracious speeches, and prudent proclamations, which will win over the subject cheerfully to afford new aids and supplies, and add fresh vigor to authority. But prudent and wary princes here seldom incline to try fortune by a war, yet do their utmost, by some grand exploit, to crush the reputation of the rebels, and if the attempt succeeds, the rebels, conscious of the wound received, and distrustful of their cause, first betake themselves to broken and empty threats, like the hissings of serpents, and next, when matters are grown desperate, to flight. And now, when they thus begin to shrink, it is safe and seasonable for kings to pursue them with their forces, and the whole strength of the kingdom, thus effectually quashing and suppressing them, as it were by the weight of a mountain. The end.